started. Please go ahead.
Thanks. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome. So I'm delighted to open this virtual side event on citizen data in the lead up to the 50th session of the UN Statistical Commission. So my name is Yongyi Min. I'm the acting chief of the Development Data and Outreach Branch at the UN Statistical Division. So this event is organized on behalf of the Collaborative on Citizen Data, a multi-stakeholder partnership bringing together civil society organizations, human rights institutions, and National Statistical Office, UN agencies, and the regional partners and development partners together. So the breadth of organizations on this call also reflects exactly the spirit of collaboration that this session is designed to advance. So about 1 year ago, at the 56th session of the UN Statistical Commission, so member states endorsed the Copenhagen framework on citizen data. This endorsement was a true milestone. It provides a shared conceptual and operational foundation for how citizen data, that data produced by people outside the formal machinery of official statistics, can be systematically, ethically, and meaningfully integrated into national data ecosystems. So what makes the Copenhagen framework distinctive is not just that it's addressed data quality and methodology. It also addresses accountability, power dynamics, and community ownership alongside technical standards. In doing so, it offers a governance-centered approach that enables citizen data to scale without losing the trust and the consent on which it depends. But frameworks only matters through implementation. And this is where today's event focused. In the past year, the collaborative has been working on multiple fronts to translate the framework's principles into practice, and the results are already tangible. For example, in Malawi, citizen data has been integrated into the country's newly adopted national strategy for the development of statistics. In Lesotho, citizen data helped fill critical data gaps in the 2025 voluntary national review, particularly for SDG 3. In Colombia, work supported the development of a citizen data maturity model and a data quality assurance framework. In Ghana, it helped initiate the use of citizen data to measure female genital mutilation in northern Ghana. So these are not only pilot experiments, they're signs that the framework is taking roots in national systems. So at the global level, the collaborative has been co-creating a suite of knowledge products on data quality, meaningful citizen engagement, building national partnerships, intersectionality, and impact assessment, along with e-learning tools. Thematic working groups have been established, including on gender and citizen data, on citizen science, and on the integration of citizen data into official statistics. A proof of concept for citizen data commons also underway. So these achievements are real, but so are the challenges. So our 2025 stock taking exercise covering more than 150 responses confirmed strong momentum alongside persistent constraints, limited capacity, inadequate funding, and institutional resistance. So capacity building emerged as a top priority across region. Trust and sustained stakeholder engagement remain essential conditions for success. So the next phase of work must be as much about supporting institutions and people as it is about producing guidance. So in 2026, the collaborative will explore, establish regional and sub-regional chapters to bring peer learning and implementation support closer to national contexts. So today's event is part of the effort. Over the next 90 minutes, you will hear from colleagues who are doing this work directly on understanding community needs and assets, on practical guidance tools, on regional approaches, and on country experience. So I encourage you to engage actively through the Slido interactions and the open discussion. So before we begin, I would like to note a few housekeeping items. So microphones have been disabled to avoid accidental interruptions. To submit questions to the presenters, please enter them in the Q&A window. We will do our best to address as many as possible. For general comments, please use the chat. The event is being recorded, and the recording and this presentation will be available on the event page following the session. So without further ado, I would like to first invite Howie Chen from UN Statistical Division to give an overview of the Copenhagen framework and the UN Statistical Commission. Over to you, Howie.
Thank you, Yongyi. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, so just very quickly on the collaborative on citizen data, as Yongyi has mentioned, where the collaborative is managed and steered by a steering committee that consists of 10 organizations. They're all listed under on the slide. And it was established in 2023 and met with the mandate from the UN Statistical Commission to develop and finalize the Copenhagen framework on citizen data, which we have completed that, and also providing a space to share knowledge, resource experiences, fostering collaboration, and provide a platform for advocacy and mobilization of relevant stakeholders. And lastly, identifying conceptual and methodological gaps informed further development of guidance, and you'll hear a little bit more on that today. Next slide, please. So why did we have the framework? It is a shared foundation for collaboration when we started, because we wanted to talk about something among all the different communities that with this common understanding. So as a foundation, also for NSO to play a central stewardship role here. And it is also a collective commitment to responsible, ethical, and professional production and use of citizen data. And it gives a common language that supports collaboration between NSOs and other data communities. And lastly, it bridges citizens and institutions and shift the focus from data to data governance. Next click. So the question is no longer whether citizen data exists, but how NSO, a national statistical system, can engage with it systematically and responsibly. Next slide. So a very quick overview of what's in there. There is a QR code for you to scan and get to the Copenhagen framework. Please use that. And it has 5 elements. The first element talks about what citizen data is, how important engagement of citizens throughout the entire GSPPM, throughout the entire data value chain is. And the second is about the principles of citizen data. If you think about fundamental principle for official statistics, and this principle of citizen data really is about what's so important for citizen data that we should be paying attention to. And what is the role of national statistical offices? We have a section on that. And the fourth element is enabling environment for sustainable production, coordination, and use of citizen data. How do we really nurture that environment? And lastly, what do we need to do as a community to implement the Copenhagen framework? Next slide, please. Yeah, very quickly, a very simple timeline. We got a mandate to work on a conceptual framework in 2023 and for 54th session of the commission. At the 55th session, and the commission welcomed a draft framework. Then last year, 56th session 2025, the commission endorsed the framework. That's what Yong has mentioned. And this year, we're here to report back on the implementation, and here also to get input, to get your support to continue our work. And so where are we going at the 58th session in 2027? So please let us know. Next. Click. Yes. So the commission, as you can see, that it moved away, moved this discussion away from, not just away, but really moved from can we do it to how do we do it. I think that's it for my side. If you like to find out more about the framework, and there's a QR code. And now over to you, Heather.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Howie. So to follow up Howie's presentation of the framework and also its relationship to the UN Statistical Commission, we wanted to just do a quick interactive poll with participants to get some feedback on the impact of the framework and ways also that it could improve our work. So we have a few Slido questions that we'd like to invite you to join. Here's the QR code for the Slido. And if you join online, it's slido.com, and the number is 215-7089. And this also has the passcode. So I'll leave this up for just another couple seconds, and then we'll go to our first question. The QR code and the passcode will also be on the next slide. So let me go there now. Sorry, oop. Okay. Yes, this is it. Okay, so here we go. So awareness and use of the Copenhagen framework. So since its endorsement, how has your organization engaged with the Copenhagen framework on citizen data? Are you not aware of the framework, aware of it but not yet used the framework, referenced it in discussions or internal reflections, used it to guide one or more concrete activities and decisions, or not aware of the framework? I think I had it in all of them. Okay, we'll leave a couple more seconds to get some more feedback. So the code again, so if you go to slido.com, and you should see it here on the left-hand side of the screen, the number is 2157089, and the passcode is on the screen. Okay, so we have about 38% say they are aware of it, but not yet used. 23% referencing it in discussions or internal reflections. 23% also using it to guide one or more concrete activities or decisions. 8% not aware of it, and 7% used to inform institutional policies or regular practices. This is really great. Okay. Right. So we'll go to the next question. If I can. Oops, sorry. Okay. So the influence on practice and decision making. To what extent has the Copenhagen framework influenced how your organization approaches the production and use of citizen data? Is there no influence so far, or limited influence, helping to frame discussions, moderate influence, informing specific decisions or pilots, transformative influence led to sustained changes in practice? Okay. This is really great to hear, or to get feedback. So we have a bit over 50% saying there's no influence so far. 24% saying that there's limited influence, but helping to frame discussions. 24% saying significant influence shaping methods, partnerships, or governance arrangements. Okay, so I think this shows we still have lots of work to do. Okay, I'll move to the next question. We only have two more. So perceived value of the framework. Which of the following best describes the main value the Copenhagen framework has provided so far? Has it provided a shared language and common principles, helped build internal, external confidence to engage with citizen data, supported partnerships and coordination with other actors, or too early to tell, or has not yet provided clear value? Too early to, okay. Okay, so it's primarily helping build internal or external confidence to engage with citizen data, over 40%. Also providing a shared language and common principles, and also a bit too early to tell. Okay, great. All right, last question. Opportunities to further enhance impact. So this is really wanting to understand what would most help enhance the impact of the Copenhagen framework on citizen data in your context. More practical country level examples, additional technical guidance or tools for implementation, stronger peer learning and exchange among countries, greater engagement and coordination among development partners, clearer communication and outreach on the framework, or it is too early to identify what would enhance impact. Okay, so primarily more practical country level examples would further enhance impact. Also additional technical guidance or tools for implementation, but generally more practical country level examples. Excellent. Thank you all so much for your participation. Really appreciate this feedback to better understand the impact of the framework and how we can move forward. Howie, I'll send it back to you.
And Yongyi, our moderator.
Sorry, back to Yoongi. Thanks.
Yeah, no, you can take from here. So next, we would like to listen to a recording from our one of our committee members, Karen Batch from the Global Partnership on Sustainable Development Data. Karen Batch will give us a stock taking exercise on the implementation of the Copenhagen framework.
Hello everyone, this is Karen from the Global Partnership, and I'll be taking you through the results of the stock taking and needs assessment exercise that we carried out in 2025 as part of the work of the collaborative. It's almost exactly 1 year since we carried out this assessment with the members of the collaborative on citizen data. So I'll take us through maybe the next 6 or so minutes with the findings. Just by way of introduction, you may recall that last year the Commission endorsed the work of the collaborative, and therefore we wanted to start with a point of information or a point where we're informed, and that's why we carried out this needs assessment exercise. We wanted to know what knowledge and tools already exist across our network and what were the main gaps and opportunities, both at the country and global level, but also just to understand the priorities and needs of our community and how the collaborative can serve the needs of our community. And of course, this was going to help us in the work that we were carrying out last year into this year, but also build that resource that is accessible to all members of the collaborative, but also other institutions that are interested in citizen data. The exercise, we thought it was quite successful in terms of the response rates and also the information that we received. It gave us a really clear picture of what's out there, what's already available, and where the gaps are. And it also gave us more national, global, and regional comparisons and to understand the priorities. And then we were able to, summarize these findings and help us have discussions with other partners and potential donors, but also with the countries that we serve. Just by way of summary, the respondents, as I mentioned, we had a good response rate. 130 participants answered the survey, representing 54 countries and 111 organizations, spanning both government, non-government, NGOs, multilaterals, and the like. So that's sort of a summary of the types of organization that gave us the responses, largely National Statistical Office, but also a big number of civil society, both national and international society. When we looked at the responses by respondents by country, some countries like Kenya had the highest respondents, and you could see a pattern in also the other countries, as you can see in the slide. Just going now to the next sort of findings, where we've grouped findings by different topics. When we looked at the available knowledge, just asking the respondents what sort of knowledge do they already have and what insights can we draw from them. We could see that collaboration was most frequently cited as an area of expertise, that people have the knowledge, people have the expertise, they've been doing this for a while, and they felt that they have something to share there. And citizen engagement as well as data quality was also represented, and that sort of sent a message to us that there's a growing emphasis on people-centered data that is trusted. Some topics were less mentioned, and this really informed the work that we did in the working groups in terms of the products. So intersectionality was mentioned less frequently, and while the community recognizes its value, there's still it's undeveloped or understood, and therefore drove us to doing the work that we're currently doing on intersectionality. We also found that the respondents did not explicitly mention toolkits or methodologies, but it does play a foundational role, especially on a topic like citizen data. So, it could be that there's just a real gap, or the people who responded, of course, not everyone responded, just had not sort of touched on that point. But several organizations offer capacity building. There are topics around gender-specific indicators, dashboards, and also going beyond technical input to looking at supporting systemic change. And then there's also responses on methodological reflection, analyzing the why, and this is really the true spirit of citizen data, is that it helps us to understand the why and unpack insights beyond the findings. Just to sort of group the expertise from what we had from our respondents, there's a huge, about 56% who say that the organizations can offer something in terms of skills on multiple types of expertise. So really we are starting in a good place, that within the community, the citizen data community, there are several people who have something to share. And then we also asked what would they like to learn from each other, and we could see, and this is sort of the point I was making earlier, that there's an interest in data quality and methodology, and also on community engagement, application and impact, all the way to technology and innovation. And you can see from the ordering of those areas of work, it's what has guided really the work of the collaborative for 2025-2026 in terms of the knowledge products that we are putting out there to the community. And we also asked, in terms of global guidance, besides global guidance, what other support would be helpful? And this was fairly balanced: training, communities of practice, online knowledge repository. Almost, we're getting fairly good scoring from the respondents. And then now the second grouping of the findings is just the existing and planned collaboration that exists already in our community that we could tap into and make and benefit from. There was, of course, collaborations between national statistical offices and civil society, which is quite common when it comes to citizen data, all the way to collaborations with international actors, UN agencies. And then most of them are focusing on SDG monitoring, policy and budgeting, all the way to data quality. And there are some structures that are in place which are worth, documenting or emulating as good practice. MOUs, legal frameworks, digital platforms, and then most of them are long established. Some pre-2020, some are fairly new, and some, continue to be developed. When we're sort of reflecting on the learnings, we're sort of looking at what were some of the factors that our respondents feel has led to the success of the collaborations they have, and what remain the challenges. I think, and you'll agree with me, those key factors of success are not quite new. They relate to most of what we all hear and say. Adaptable methods, trust and transparency, stakeholder engagement, capacity building, whereas the challenges range from institutional barriers, sustainability issues, and resource constraints, as well as trust and data sharing. The third grouping of sort of the findings, as I mentioned, this needs assessment was also helping us to know which countries, should we prioritize, and what are the priorities when it comes to the countries that we serve. And the key observation, and in this slide, you'll see that we've sort of clustered what we had based on country respondents, and we were sort of classifying them based on, where there's an urgent intervention needed by the collaborative, where there's significant support required, and then all the way down to minimal, like basic support. And you can see from this diagram that, in a number of countries, there's a critical need and also a fairly high need. So you can see the orange and reds are much more than the greens and the grays. What this clustering helped us to do is also identify the countries that the collaborative could start working with in terms of partnerships from last year onwards. And with this, we were able to, pick the top 5 countries that we would prioritize as the collaborative, which was Kenya, Nepal, India, Malawi, and Colombia. And it's because there was a strong response rate and also a diverse mix of respondents. So it was a mix of government, grassroots, civil society, and other agencies, and which sort of gave us the strength of the evidence that we were seeing. And then, of course, those are high and critical needs in terms of frameworks, capacity building, technical support, and funding, which were the building blocks that we're sort of aiming at. Some countries as well, like Malawi, Nigeria, Nepal, Ethiopia, could sort of start seeing some patterns on interventions across multiple areas, especially with, the topic on citizen data just beginning to gain traction in country. Those are the patterns we see, whereas in some countries, the discussion on citizen data has been there for a while, so they've sort of moved to other priorities that they are now focusing on when it comes to citizen data. And of course, just helpful to mention that we excluded the US from the analysis because most of the respondents were international organizations, not necessarily serving the US government, but just based in the US. As I sort of come to the end, in terms of just the trends across the regions now, going from country up to regions, we could see that from Africa and Asia, there's most need in frameworks, capacity building, and then, the global north, the US and the UK, we see lower needs on operation, but more on sharing the partnerships and sort of establishing partnerships with them. And then in between, of course, there are priorities for Latin America. And then 2 countries, Vietnam and Philippines, also stood out as sort of worth the collaborative, building more relationships in country and providing additional support in country. And looking into the concrete support needs, and this is what has really driven the work of the collaborative, is that there are 4 clusters of developing frameworks, building capacity, platform and data management, development, as well as partnership and knowledge exchange. And there's, of course, the breakdown of each of these 4 areas of work, which we've now divided into the support we provide to the countries. So we're supporting some countries on developing frameworks and guidelines, some on capacity building, as well as data management and platform development, as well as partnership and knowledge exchange. And I think the EGM has always been also a really good space to foster that learning exchange and partnerships, as well as, of course, the in-person, the virtual exchanges that we've hosted. And I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention, and I wish you the very best in the rest of the session today. If anyone has questions from this presentation that I've made, I'll be very happy to follow up with responses. Please leave your comments in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll be very happy to follow up. Thank you so much, and goodbye from me.
I would like to thank you, Karen, very much. And she's traveling, so she recorded this message while she's traveling. So a big thanks, Karen. So if you have questions, I just want to remind you to put your question in the Q&A box. So in the next, we'll have three different members from the collaborative will present the guidance, the suite of guidance that the collaborative created in the past years. First, maybe I would like to invite Charlotte Hansen, our consultant, give you an overview of the guidance products. So over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you so much, Youngie. So yeah, so what we saw from the survey that Karen just presented is that there is this need for more guidance, and we also saw it from the Slido questionnaire that that Heather was taking you through earlier, that there is a need for guidance. So what we are doing now is that we are working on developing 6 different guidances on different topics. And the idea is really to help and support the stakeholders in responsible and sustainable production and use of citizen data, and to fill this gap that we see there is with the knowledge and practices to support that in the implementation of the Copenhagen framework. The development of the guidances is led by the members of the steering committee, but there's a lot of other people involved in this work. We have experts teams, there are sounding boards, there are pilots and testing. We get feedback from collaborative members and non-members, and we also conduct and will conduct more webinars specifically on the different guidances. So I will take you through the guidance. So Heather, next slide, please. So the first one is a guidance on data quality on citizen data, and this is to kind of provide guidance on how to evaluate and improve citizen data quality and communicate its quality to users. It builds on quality principles of the international statistics community, and will have like a special lens from the citizen data point of view. We also have a complementary guide on gender and citizen data that's actually about to be published very soon, specifically on quality assurance, and it's led by UN Women in the cooperation of this working group on gender and citizen data that we have under the collaborative umbrella. The next guidance is on meaningful engagement of citizen in data production and use. First of all, what does it mean to engage citizen in a meaningful way? But then also, how do you engage citizen meaningfully during the design, the implementation, and sort of the sustainability of that engagement during all the data production and use. These 2 guidance will be available only late summer or early fall in 26. So you have to wait a little bit for those 2. Next slide. The third guidance is on forming national partnerships for citizen data. So what does it mean to create and establish these partnerships among different types of communities? So we have those that are from the official statistics community and the citizen data actors. And so there will be different guidance on how to identify stakeholders and how to assess the legal and institutional conditions that might be in the country, how to build trust, etc. The fourth guidance is on creating a national toolkit for citizen data. So this is more looking at a toolkit in the country to kind of strengthen citizen data initiative and use, So it's about having a national toolkit that can support government and non-government actors in promoting and working with citizen data. And these two guidance will also only be available late summer, early fall in 26. But they're on their way, so that's great news. Next slide, please. The last two guidances, they're coming up soon, in the next few months, March, April. It's on intersectionality and one on impact stories. So it's about how do you bring citizen data to life through the impact storytelling. And I will hand over to Elizabeth, who is the co-lead of the intersectionality guide, to explain a bit more on that, and to Heather on the impact story toolkit. So over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. I'm representing the stakeholder group of persons with disabilities. I'm one of the co-leads, along with Open Data Watch, of the intersectionality guide. We recognize intersectionality as a concept looking at people's experiences that are shaped by multiple intersecting identities, including race, ethnicity, class, gender, age, disability, migrant status, sexual orientation, and others. Intersectionality comes from the tradition of Black feminist legal theory, and the term intersectionality was originally defined by Kimberly Crenshaw. But data intersectionality is based on the concept of intersectionality, but going a little further. So it's an approach to data and data analysis that offers a better understanding of how multiple social identities interact and influence a person's experiences and outcomes, and highlights disparities that may otherwise be hidden or obscured when looking only at one single dimension of identity. So this guidance document is an approach to intersectional data, which was already just briefly shared with you by Charlotte. And we have put this together because we want guidance to give guidance on the type of data needed for data practitioners, producers, users, researchers, civil society, and communities that are interested in an intersectional approach to data use and data analysis. It also offers a practical guide on how citizen data and other data sources can be used to inform intersectional data analysis as a unique data source. And very importantly, that it represents the lived experiences of individuals and can be integrated with other more traditional data sources. We started by looking at case studies that looked at how citizen data can be used in the data intersectionality approach, and then we built upon this. We look throughout the whole data value chain, the collection, publication, uptake, and impact of data, and we use the Open Data Watch's intersectional data framework as our guide. We also look at intersectional approaches in household surveys, citizen data for intersectionality, qualitative data. We have a very nice section on that, and mixed methods. And then the final part is highlighting case studies where intersectional data have been applied, and we have different examples from the disability community, LGBTQ community, and so forth. As a very brief timeline and next steps, we are almost done with our draft. We had a webinar a couple weeks ago, February 4th, just open to the public, and we're still gathering feedback from that. And we'd be happy to share with you if you want to also provide feedback. We will be finalizing the document soon. At the end of February, we'll be done with all the feedback. And then, as Charlotte said, coming very soon will be the final version, and we will share it on the collaborative's website. We plan as a next step to develop training tools based on the guidance to present this and actually to implement the guidance note as a future step. And I will end here, and thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, and next I would like to invite Heather Page from the UN Statistical Division to present the tool on impact story.
Thank you so much, Youngie. The UN Statistics Division and Danish Institute for Human Rights were the co-leads for the Impact Story Toolkit that we're developing, also with a consultant and in collaboration with organizations and government entities in the collaborative. And so what we're trying to do here is develop evidence-based communication products, really looking at developing impact stories that, rather than focus only on activities or outputs, these impact stories trace the journey from information gathering to influence, really showing how insights inform decisions, policies, or practices, and why these matter to people's lives. We want the impact story to really sit at the intersection of the work of the collaborative, where we are providing these guidance and tools to really show the importance of citizen data. And the purpose is really to equip citizen data practitioners with step-by-step guidance to measure and assess the impact of their citizen data and initiatives, and then also translate those findings into compelling and evidence-based impact stories. So what's in the toolkit? So it really focuses on two different parts. The first part includes step-by-step guidance on impact assessment, really looking at from evaluability to methods and also strategy embedding, including guiding questions for choosing the appropriate impact assessment method. And this also looks at citizen data and initiatives that are being undertaken by organizations and also in government, really trying to look at the whole sequence of events or the initiative that is taking place, because you can have smaller impacts along the way that you can also assess and evaluate and also tell the story of that impact before perhaps getting to the longer term objectives of the work. And so this really actually also draws quite a bit from methodology from citizen science and impacts, and then translates that to broader citizen data work and looking at impact assessment throughout that chain. And then the second part of the toolkit includes impact storytelling. So really from assembling that evidence to validating stories and dissemination, including how to for two different approaches. We kind of call it evidence to story or story to evidence, trying to make sure that the evidence is included, but also that the stories have a human touch and that they really convey the impact of the work in a way that's accessible to lots of different audiences. So it includes a lot of different ways to disseminate that information. So we are testing the toolkit with organizations and government entities that are part of the collaborative. We've been working together for quite a few months where we're testing out the toolkit, and we will soon publish their impact stories on the website. So this toolkit should be completed in the next 2 months. And so we really also look forward to feedback on the toolkit as well as your use of the toolkit. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for Charlotte, Elizabeth, and Heather gave us a overview of the suite of guidance that the collaborative have a collaborate has created in the past years, and also the plan for how to test and pilot all this guiding tools. So if you have questions for three of them, please leave them in the Q&A box. Next, we will like to invite Jessa, Incarnation from UN Women. Jessa will give a presentation on the work priority thematic area and engagement. Yeah, go over to you, Jessa.
Yeah, thank you, Yongi. And as this session reflects, the conversation is now moving from endorsement of the Copenhagen framework to actual implementation. So today, on behalf of the Working Group on Gender and Citizen Data and its co-chairs, Open Data Watch, Francesca Perucci, and UN Women, I will outline how the working group is contributing to that transition. Next slide. So the Copenhagen framework, as you have heard, has established shared principles, but principles alone do not implement themselves. So implementation requires translation from norms into usable guidance, from commitments into practical tools. And the working groups function as the institutional bridge between those principles and real-world applications. They provide structured thematic spaces where principles are translated into tools, methodological questions are clarified, and lessons from countries are synthesized. Next slide. So creation of working groups began with gender, not because other dimensions are less important, but because gender is universal and cross-cutting. Citizen data initiatives are advancing rapidly across sectors and regions, as you have heard. The task now is to ensure that gender is systematically integrated across the citizen data value chain. So we also often speak of persistent gender data gaps. But maybe what we call a data gap may in fact be a systems gap. When citizen data repeatedly emerges on issues such as violence, unpaid care, environmental harm, indigenous peoples, or access to services, it is often described as filling a data gap. Yet, if certain realities consistently surface outside official statistics, that raises the questions about coverage, prioritization, or lack thereof, instrument design, or responsiveness within the system itself. So citizen data is rarely attempting to replace official statistics. More often, it is responding to areas where measurement remains complex, evolving, or incomplete, particularly in capturing gendered experiences. And you see, these patterns are not accidental. They cluster in areas where methodological complexity intersects with power, violence, and paid care, and environmental burdens. And these are not marginal topics. They are measurement stress points. So starting with gender allows us to test how the framework works in areas where inequality is most visible and most complex. Next slide. So this working group was established in July last year at the High-Level Political Forum. It is co-chaired by UN Women and Open Data Watch, bringing together 19 organizations and 23 individual experts, spanning civil society, official statistics, academia, and UN entities. Importantly, the working group is complemented by a broader gender and citizen data network, which allows us to expand consultations and engagement beyond the core members. So while the working group is the operational core, the network broadens its reach and diversity of input. So since 2025, we have focused on three areas. First, the gender responsive data quality assurance, translating principles into practical standards so citizen data is credible and usable. Second, measurement of gender-based violence and sexual harassment, strengthening approaches to capture harms that are often underreported. And third, the gender environment nexus, particularly within indigenous peoples, ensuring citizen data reflects intersectional and lived realities. So across all three, our aim is simple: to make gender-responsive methodologies across the board. Next slide. In less than a year, the working group has moved from dialogue to concrete outputs. So first, through commissioned work with Monica Pratesi in collaboration with the working group, so to develop a gender-responsive citizen data quality assurance framework, which will be released in the coming weeks. Second, another commissioned work with Anita Raj in consultation again with the working group, which produced guidance on measuring sexual harassment using citizen data. It clarified definitions, provided ethical safeguards, and how citizen data can complement official statistics. And then third, a background document on indigenous peoples, gender, and the environment is underway, mapping systemic information gaps and proposing methodological pathways grounded in data sovereignty, one of the principles of the framework. So some of this work is still evolving, but together these outputs show that working groups are not discussion spaces alone, that they generate technical substance. So next slide. What makes a working group effective? In our experience, three things matter. First, focus. We did not debate gender in general terms. We focused on specific methodological questions related to data quality and measurement. Second, discipline. We committed to define outputs within a timeline, a gender-responsive data quality assurance framework, and the guidance on sexual harassment. And third, coherence. The work was not isolated. Our work was embedded in the collaborative's architecture and informed the broader citizen data quality framework. And so when these three elements are present, working groups move from discussion to delivery. And if I may say, aside from the gender and citizen data working group, there are two working groups upcoming. First is the working group on citizen science, and second would be this working group on integration into official statistics. Next slide. Another thing to stress in the work of these working groups, this is not a one-way relationship. The collaborative, for example, shaped the working group on gender by anchoring it firmly in the Copenhagen framework principles. At the same time, the working group on gender informed the broader design of the citizen data quality framework and strengthening how gender is reflected across teams. And and this is a two-way process. It is how institutional learning happens. It shows that thematic groups are not isolated, and it helps shapes the collaborative's direction in both ways. Next slide. So we began by suggesting that we often call persistent gender data gaps, but may in fact be signal areas where measurement systems can be strengthened. So for national statistical offices, the question is not whether citizen data replaces official statistics. It is how statistical systems remain responsive as new forms of data emerge. Working groups offer a structured space to translate emerging signals into methodological clarity and shared standards. Engagement in this process continues through the collaborative and the thematic working groups. Ultimately, they support strengthening the responsiveness and resilience of the statistical systems, which is at the core of this commission's mandate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jessica gave us such a comprehensive overview of the working group on gender and the citizen data. So if you would like to join, so just send us the information, and there's a QR code you can use. So next, I would like to invite our colleague from SCAP, Ayodele Marshall, to present the regional coordination and sub-regional collaboration work on citizen data. Over to you, Ayu.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ayodele Marshall, Associate Statistician at ETSCAP, and we're set to become the regional chapter for the implementation for the Copenhagen framework. Thanks for the opportunity to share a regional perspective from ETSCAP. Following the endorsement of the Copenhagen framework, the focus has shifted toward a key question: how can we translate the principles into practice for the diverse national context that exists in this region? The region includes highly advanced statistical systems, along with smaller, more resource-constrained statistical systems. So the diversity makes structured, adaptable implementation especially important. Asia and the Pacific is home to immense diversity geographically, institutionally, socially. Many countries face common challenges: the need for more granular and timely data, reaching vulnerable or marginalized populations, as has been mentioned here on this call, ensuring disability and gender inclusion in data systems, much like what my colleague just said, as the focus for the working group on gender and citizen data. Citizen-generated data, it already plays a role in several contexts here in the region, often through community-based monitoring, civil society initiatives, initiatives are participatory data collection. In many cases, the data is already informing development planning, including common country assessments and voluntary national reviews here. Next slide, please. The region has several strong assets. First, there are active civic tech communities, academia, and civil society organizations that are not only advocating for transparency, but they're actively building tools, generating analysis, and supporting inclusive data ecosystems. Secondly, there's a lot of expanding data infrastructure and digital infrastructure, from digital ID systems to administrative platforms and improved connectivity. And this creates the backbone for more integrated and timely statistics. Thirdly, there is growing experience with data innovation, including geospatial data, satellite imagery, mobile data, and advanced analytics. And many countries are now hoping to move from pilots to actually institutionalizing these projects and this using this alternative sources of data. In CRVS, of course, civil society plays an essential role in reaching marginalized populations and improving registration coverage. And importantly, NSOs here are increasingly embracing structured engagement, shifting from being sole producers of data to coordinators within a broader national data ecosystem. Next slide, please. So where engagement is emerging, at SCAT, we've identified several countries where enabling conditions are strong. I won't go through each of them just in the interest of time, but they're listed here on the slides for various reasons. The countries are being highlighted because they demonstrate clear demand for more inclusive and disaggregated data, commitment to disability inclusive development, active collaboration with our UN resident coordinated offices here, and establish engagement in VNR processes and other activities. In many of these countries, citizen-generated data and evidence already exists, particularly in areas, I keep mentioning disability and gender equality and community service monitoring. I'll just flip through the other slides because the other slides show other countries as well. But in the interest of time, I'll just summarize quickly. These countries, they have also requested support to integrate citizen data with traditional data sources to improve disability statistics. We're launching a project development account project soon on citizen data to improve disability statistics and to inform inclusive policy making. And the project is responding by developing practical integration methods, building partnerships among NSOs, organizations for persons with disabilities, and relevant line ministries, strengthening these organizations' capacity to lead citizen data initiatives and supporting use of results in policymaking. And this goes beyond disability statistics and for other statistics or for other information that is pertinent to national experience. Next slide, please. I'll just touch briefly on the challenges. Next slide. Thank you. Yes, the shared challenges and lessons learned. Across the subregions here, there are similar challenges, ensuring data quality and representation, safeguarding privacy and informed consent, clarifying institutional roles and mandates, and building sustainable technical capacity. And a consistent lesson is that trust is foundational, building trust among the data holders and building trust in the public sphere as well. Citizen data, we think, can strengthen statistical systems when governance frameworks, transparency, and ethical safeguards are clear. And this has been a common message throughout this entire presentation. And we think the Copenhagen framework provides a shared language for addressing these issues. and not just a shared language, but practical tools and regional dialogue as it remains essential. So next slide, we think our way forward, our SCAP's role is going to be multi-layered. First, we need to convene safe spaces for peer learning and exchange among NSOs and all the data players, all the partners in this space, translating and helping to adapt the global principles and all the guidances that have been mentioned here on this call to regional realities, particularly for these small island developing states and for lower capacity systems and lower capacity statistical and data systems. Work is already being done by the DASH teams on whole of society approach to building agile statistical systems. I'll just go back and give some background as to what the DASH teams are. They're the Data and Statistics Horizon teams, which report to the Committee of Statistics here. Very similar to the working group that was described by Jessica on citizen data and gender. It's less formal. It's meant to be time-bound and activity and delivery-bound. So we see these teams, these DASH teams, as being essential to doing the work that countries are calling for, that are high in demand in this region. And this particular DASH team, the one on the whole of society approach, was established to explore how all of the data players and all of the citizen data and the data being held by different data holders can be integrated into various aspects of work that the NSOs are looking to do across the whole data value chain, and exploring how NSOs can engage a wide range of stakeholders to ensure that official statistics reflect the needs and perspectives of all sectors of society, and it acknowledges the roles that citizens and NSOs play in data processes, formulating action points for the sustainable production and use of citizen data. And this whole of society approach entails deliberate and proactive engagement and collaboration with many players in society. And then SCAP's role extends also to aligning with RCOs, resident coordinator offices, and other development partners to ensure coherence and sustainability. So moving forward, we see priority areas in demand-driven pilot initiatives, DASH teams, and those have already been established and will be established based on need and demand. Practical guidance that is adapted and tailored for a regional perspective, and sustained collaboration beyond the initial pilots that are happening in the region. We're thinking implementation must be incremental, but it must also be country-led and grounded in national statistical mandates for it to be sustained. I will stop here. We look forward to continuing this work with the member states and partners across the region, and thank you. And I'll hand back over to Youngie.
Thank you so much, Ayodele. And it's really great to see the work in SCAP and other countries and SCAP support on citizen data. Also, I just want to mention that our work, the citizen data work, actually started in Bangkok in SCAP building. That's where the first meeting took place. So we went back again last year and had our fourth meeting. So this is a region that has a great support and interesting in the on citizen data. So next, I would like to invite a country representative to present their country experience. So I'd like to invite Basil Tangbani from Ghana Statistical Service to present how Ghana use citizen data for national policies and SDG monitoring. Over to you, Basil.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So my name is Basil Tongbane, and I'm making this presentation from Ghana. So next slide, please. So for Ghana, why did we choose to adopt citizen data So in 2017, an assessment was done on our data needs that could help us inform monitoring the Sustainable Development Goals. And we realized that 33% of the indicators on the Sustainable Development Goals are based on data from the census and surveys. And this was not enough for us to use when it comes to the monitoring of the SDGs. So hence we had to explore different other data options that could help us be able to address the SDG data gaps. So hence the adoption of the citizen data approach in Ghana. And this was mainly so because citizen data also helps to amplify citizen voices. It enables citizens to voice out their concerns and also targets specific needs within the society that can actually influence change. So through the adoption of citizen data, we're able to strengthen accountability, and we also were able to have an everyone involvement when it comes to the data collection exercise, where we are able to reach out to persons with disabilities among several other vulnerable populations. And this aligned well with a human rights-based approach because the data respect the rights of the individuals, so also enables people to feel more comfortable contributing to the development of the country. And this has hence helped us in monitoring the Sustainable Development Goals and also with our voluntary national reporting. So Ghana has so far undertaking 5 of these projects using citizen data. The first was the gender-based violence, which helped us to be able to measure the proportion of women and girls aged 15 years and older who were subjected to sexual violence by persons other than an intimate partner. And this proved to be very effective because we used the application called Let's Talk, which made it easier because we had embedded in this application different other approaches that allowed persons to be able to report either they were using smartphones or even if for persons who were not having access to smartphones, and for the vulnerable population, the persons with disabilities and all of that, were able to report concerns regarding gender-based violence, and we're able to monitor the indicator 5.2.2. And then we also adopted citizen data approach to measure waste management using the Clean Up Ghana approach, where we developed the app and citizens were able to report on waste, which helped us to also measure the sustainable indicator 11.6.1, which is on the proportion of the municipal solid waste that was collected and managed in control facilities out of the municipal waste generated by cities. So this again also proved successful. The third project which we used citizen data was the marine data, and this was yet another success. And we also adopted it to influence decision making. For instance, the DACF, that is the District Assembly Common Fund Support App, which enable persons with disabilities to effectively voice out concerns regarding the allocation of funds that were meant for them as part of the District Common Fund allocation. And then the quite recent one that we adopted was on the Sustainable Development Goal 16.6.2, which is on citizen satisfaction with public services, which also allowed us to be able to measure the proportion of the population that were satisfied with their last experience of public services in Ghana. And we limited this to public services such as education, healthcare, and government-issued identity services, which had to do with passport collection, the collection of passport, the application for birth certificates, and application for Ghana card. How did citizens, what were their experiences with these services? Next slide, please. So what we can see currently is the different applications that were developed for the various projects that we undertook using citizen data. So to the top left corner is the gender-based violence, where we developed the Let's Talk app. And the middle side was the solid waste management. And then the to my right is the PSSS app, that's the Public Service Satisfaction Survey app, which allowed persons to report on their experiences of public services. So we use different apps. We develop different apps to enable people to contribute, and then we're able to collect the data and analyze the data and provide a feedback to persons. Next slide, please. So this we did not do alone. We did it in collaboration with several other agencies. For instance, the UNDP, Oslo Governance Center, the United Nations Environment Program, GIZ, local authorities. For instance, in Ghana, we have 261 metropolitan municipal district assemblies. So we engaged them, given that the project was being undertaken in those specific districts. And we also involved civil society organizations as well as the academic institutions. These were all stakeholders that we brought on board to enable us to undertake these projects. Next slide, please. So for the next few minutes, I would be explaining Ghana's experience using the key pillars of the Copenhagen framework. So the first has to do with the collaboration. So through collaboration, what we did was to build a strong partnership with our stakeholders, all interest groups, all institutions that were relevant in helping us to be able to undertake the projects we're involved. And we also engage civil society, academia, and as well as the local authorities to bring them on board to share experiences and also learn from one another. And this actually proved to be very successful because we're able to engage them at different levels and also sought their views to be able to undertake these projects. For instance, the technical coordination, we undertook it at the national level, where we involved the ministries, departments, and agencies. And at the regional level, we also interacted more with the Regional Coordinating Council that was able to help us reach out to the 16 administrative regions in Ghana. And again, at the district level, we also involved the Metropolitan Municipal District Assemblies, 261 district assemblies. So depending on where this particular project was being piloted, we involved the specific districts that were involved in this particular project. And by so doing, we're able to share a lot of learning and methodological adaptations that helped a lot in helping us achieve the aim of the project. So the result in a nutshell, through the collaboration, we're able to embed as part of the national statistical system citizen data. So it has come to stay and it's now part of the national statistical system in Ghana. Next slide, please. So the second key pillar, which is on the participation and inclusion, we realize that citizens are actually part of the data value chain, and in order to be able to successfully undertake citizen data, it's important to always involve citizens as part of this data value chain. And to get citizen involvement in this data value chain, the applications were developed in a way that created that enabling environment easy to use, and also made it accessible to citizens to be able to use and report on certain projects that we undertook. So for instance, the gender-based violence we had developed it in a way that could enable people to even report using the proxy. So if instances where the victim does not maybe feel very comfortable using the application, they're able to contact someone that they trust and they're able to report through that person as well. So we made it very interactive and accessible for all persons. And we're able to then notice that this citizen data approach, when developed in a way that is inclusive, is able to solicit the needed feedback. For instance, in the Public Services Satisfaction Survey, which was the PSSS, we noticed that we had significant number of persons with disability who were reporting of their experiences with public services. So ordinarily, maybe a survey would not have really been able to reach out to this group of persons, but because we had embedded interactive systems to enable all persons reports using the app, we're able to get feedback from diverse groups. And this actually strengthened the voice and then also created that ownership. So for instance, the District Assembly Common Fund, which had to do with persons with disability, it created that ownership and gave them that feeling of being part of the data value system. So they were willing to contribute their feedback and helping us report on issues that were very relevant. And this actually has resulted in a shift from what we would term as citizens now shifted from being data subjects to active data partners. So they were being part of the process and then were also willing to always voice out their concerns, which helped us a lot when it came to the reporting as well. Next slide, please. So for the ethics and trust, which is one other key pillar of the Copenhagen framework, through this ethics and trust, we notice that it's important that we need to always safeguard the rights and independence and credibility of every data system. So Ghana Statistical Service was providing the institutional leadership. And then the data confidentiality. We also ensured that citizens' data was some of this citizen data approaches, for instance, the gender-based violence deals with sensitive data. So we needed to establish that trust, that there is that confidentiality in handling such sensitive data to make people more willing to participate and more willing to provide us with the sensitive information that is needed in helping us measure some of this progress. So we did so by also making it very inclusive in a way that respected the individual identification and allow persons to report as who they see themselves to be. So, and their consents were also sought. So we had the consent form, which was first shown to them, and respondents who were feeling comfortable to continue with the application, then move forward. Those who were not had the chance to decline. And this process was so transparent, and we also made sure to document it. And at the end of it all, most importantly, the data that was collected after analyzed, we reached back to the society to let them have an experience or feel of what the results were like. And this actually led to several other initiatives. Going forward, I'll be mentioning some. And this enabled that trust building and also made it easier for us for places that we conducted this pilot. It was easier when we needed to scale it up because we had already established that trust and believe in the fact that the data that citizens were provided was being protected and being the credibility of the data was assured. Next slide, please. So for sustainability, we have institutionalized citizen data for long-term impacts. And this we have been able to do based on the first pilot projects. And from the pilot projects, we're able to continuously refine our tools for data collection based on our experiences. And this has so far demonstrated the needed impact. For instance, the District Assembly Common Fund project that we used citizen data for sometime on the 24th of October 2025, the President of Ghana had actually announced that the district allocation for persons with disability to be increased from 3% to 5%. And this announcement was made as a result of the project that we undertook using citizen data, reaching out to persons with disability, trying to find out whether they were, first of all, aware of the District Assembly Common Fund allocation meant for them, and also for those who were aware, were they receiving the support. So through this initiative, we're able to publish the results, and this led to a very significant policy impact where the president increased the funds allocation for persons with disability from 3% to 5%, which was indeed as part of the recommendations that we made from the project that we undertook on this. And so far, this is going to continue because it's aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's also it is part of the Ghana Statistical Service and the National Development Planning Commission of Ghana's mandate to always report on the Sustainable Development Goals. So going forward, we will continue to enhance this reporting and ensure that we use citizen data to complement our traditional data sources and help us to be able to meet and address data gaps that were existing. So this gradual integration would continue, and we hope that it will become a part of the administrative system where we can routinely get data on citizen data to be able to measure Ghana's progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. So based on that, the result has positioned citizen data as a complementary data source, and it has also led to the system strengthening innovation where others stakeholders who are part of the national statistical system are now also trying to adopt the citizen data approach to be able to undertake their projects. Next slide, please. So this wasn't without challenges. We encountered some challenges. So for instance, resource constraints, and there were issues with methodological concerns, as well as the initial skepticism from some citizens who were not too sure how this works, and also issues of data quality, which came up in the by the previous presenter as well. So to some extent, we try to address some of these challenges. So for resource constraints, we started by undertaking pilots. So for places we are not able to upscale it to the entire country, we would undertake it using a pilot approach where we would select few districts and then we try to see how this turns out. So based on that, then we are able to upscale it as and when we are able to get some resources. And for issues of methodological concerns, there's still this continuous review of our methods and going forward, how best we can ensure that this becomes very comprehensive enough to target all methodological concerns. And for the skepticism, we have demonstrated it through the success stories from other projects that we've so far undertaken. So based on that, people have come to the realization that citizen data is actually a game changer, and when adopted can influence the necessary change that we need. And for the data quality refinement issues, GSS has established itself as the leadership of the National Statistical System, and so doing, we've been able to lead when it comes to issues of data quality, where we've adopt and ensure that data quality is aligned with our data quality management strategies to ensure that the data is of quality. So please, next slide. So in conclusion, citizen data in Ghana has actually demonstrated that indeed it can help us address our data gaps. It can also influence in strengthening the accountability of institutions, and as well as empowering communities and making people feel that they are part of the data value chain. And this has so far demonstrated the relevance and leadership of the National Statistical System in helping meet the actual needs of the citizens and ensuring that the needed change is being met and addressed. So on this note, I'll say thank you very much. And if there are questions and concerns, we'll take them on the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Basil. It's a big congratulations on Ghana Statistical Service. Have been it's a champion in using citizen data in so many diverse areas, and also I know like you this is progress has made pretty fast in the past only 5 years, 4 or 5 years. You have made so much progress in using citizen data to monitor many of the SDGs, and so this is a great congratulations. I think we have a few minutes maybe for questions and Q&A, so I will maybe open the floor. But before I open the floor, I would like to remind you to have a 2 minutes intervention maximum, and maybe allow 3 questions for the presenters. Yeah. So now let me open the floor to see if anyone have questions. Let me also try to open to enable so you can unmute yourself and also turn on your camera. So if you can raise your hands now. Anyone from the participant? And before that, I can read it from the chat. Okay, let's see one person has his hand raised. Let me find out. Please go ahead. Yeah, Sarah now.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, apologies for the background noise. I'm biking through a very icy Copenhagen and listening to this very exciting conversation. It was so exciting to hear all the developments in Ghana, and Ghana has really been an ally and a pioneer and visionary as well in this type of work. Very briefly, I just wanted to ask if you can point out very concretely, what has changed in the way that you work with citizen data since this whole movement of the collaborative citizen data has started? Has it inspired different ways of engaging citizens in the projects, in citizen data projects that you have, or to support citizen data initiatives from civil society organizations? If you could, point just a little bit to this shift of how this work has inspired any statistics office like yourselves in this type of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And maybe I'd like to invite Basil and Omar. Omar is also on the call. Omar is a deputy and DG in Ghana Statistical Service. Can address this question.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for the question. So for Ghana Statistical Service as the national statistical organization, this has really been a game changer. So for instance, prior to this approach of citizen data, we as the National Statistical System were mandated to report on the Sustainable Development Goals. But from our assessment that we did, we noticed that just 33% of the indicators on the Sustainable Development Goals can be addressed using our census and survey data. And meaning that there were a lot of other gaps that needed to be filled. So for an approach such as citizen data, it has come in handy, and it has come at the appropriate time because we are able to utilize this tool to be able to complement the existing data gaps. So it has been a game changer.
Yeah, thanks, Basil. I also saw Omar has a yeah. Go
Yeah, if
ahead,
you
Omar.
permit me, yeah, thank you very much. Just to add that as part of the work we have done, Ghana is one of the few countries that has just developed a disability data framework to guide the international statistical system on how to incorporate disability data in all our data collection processes, including non-traditional data, I mean, citizens data, among others. And this somehow was influenced by the work we have been doing around citizens data. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Omar. I know you're really a champion and pioneer in this area, and really pushing so much, and gave us a lot of good example that we would like to invite you probably share with more countries to use all the experience that you have gained in using citizen data. So maybe I'll invite one or two more questions if you have any. Yeah, feel free to raise your hand. Okay. I don't see any more hands up. I think also we're really, yeah. Oh, I saw Omar, Ali. Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much for all these great presentations, and it's really inspiring, and it gives a lot of ideas for countries who want to do it. And the e-learning course on citizen data was really fantastic. On the Copenhagen framework was great, with great examples. And there was one case, I mean, one topic that I was interested, in addition to what was presented by Statistics Ghana, is what advice or recommendations or ideas would you share on the use of citizen data when it comes to population on the move, or forcibly displaced, or even stateless people? As you probably, as you know, I mean, it's very sensitive and in many places. And I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on that. Merci beaucoup.
Thanks, Omar. I don't know if any of the presenters and or a member of the collaborative have any answer on this, and please come in. Or country know the any of the experience using city data for people on the move.
Yeah, how are you? This Omar from Ghana.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Omar.
Yes. So populations on the move, I think citizens data would be one great way of reaching out to them, especially if many of them use phones or some other medium of communication where you can target them for this. In that case, there wouldn't be any potential barriers of legitimacy or possible arrest or something. So because the person can engage in through on the platform through their mobile phones, even if their basic phones functionalities still exist without them being tracked by anybody. And I think if the National Statistical Office in this case lead the chart, it makes it more easier, and the trust building is established to the extent that people can comfortably use the resources from the Statistical Office, knowing that it will not be connected to any legal entity. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Omar. I think you also, like, in your experience, you also touched some sensitive topic like violence against women, and this will probably also be used in this year. So probably there's one more question as Sean from Open Lato Map.
Hi everyone, my name's Sean Lynch from Ireland. I'm the founder of Open Letter Map, which I've been working on following the launch of the iPhone nearly 2 decades ago. No question, but just wanted to raise a point that some countries, like here in Ireland, have no pathway to recognise or evaluate or engage, not just with citizen data, but with citizen-led infrastructure, with open source, UN endorsed digital public goods like Open Letter Map. And ahead of our presidency, I've prepared a comprehensive policy dossier. It's called the Democracy Gap, and it examines Ireland's structural barriers to research and innovation and citizen science, and that as well as citizen data, we also need to recognise citizens as builders of democratic infrastructure to overcome the harms of social media and build better systems than our institutions are currently capable of doing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, for these comments. I think we're already over the time, and so I would like to invite Francesca Perucci from Open Data Watch, and Francesca is also co-chair of the collaborative, to provide the closing remark and what's the next step of the collaborative. Over to you, Francesca.
Thank you so much, Yongi. And I know we are a little bit over time already, so I'll keep it very short. But allow me to thank all the presenters here today. It was amazing to hear the work done over the last 3 years, both from the collaborative, the steering committee members, and the amazing work done in countries and by the regional commissions. I think the work done by ESCAP is really a fantastic example of how we can advance this agenda as we move forward. We know the endorsement of the Copenhagen framework was an important milestone, and of course the recognition by the official statistical community was terribly important for this work. But as we move forward, we continue to advance this agenda, we need to continue to engage with national statistical offices. And as Jessa said, it's not really about whether or not this data are fully integrated into official statistics. It's really about engagement and collaboration as citizen data become increasingly part of national data systems, and they respond to the need also of national statistical offices themselves who want to build more inclusive data systems. So it's really important that we continue to engage. This is an event for the UN Statistical Commission, so it's terribly important that we have this message, that we continue to engage with national statistical offices. We bridge communities, we bridge those gaps that still exist between the civil society organizations, communities, citizens, and institutions. We build common languages on standards, quality assurance, and we build collaboration and this collective commitment to really continue to work on this data source and promote the responsible and ethical production and use of citizen data. So as we move ahead over the next year of implementation, I think the focus will remain on addressing the need, and we've seen it in the Slido. It's clear that the need for knowledge sharing and peer learning is strong. That organization wants to see more case studies, more examples, how we can really concretely put this into practice. We need to adapt the tools and the guidance that we have developed so far and making it really accessible, usable, really providing training tools and putting it into the hands of those who really implement this work. again, the coordination and the collaboration with national statistical offices is important. And we need to really rely on the work done by regional commissions. We heard the case of ESCAP, which is really an amazing example of how they have worked in this area. And we'll continue to engage with them and also expand and work with other regional commissions so that we build this, how we translate this global framework into regional practices, right? So that will be an important area of work for us. We'll continue to address the capacity needs. And again, here, collaboration with regional commissions, bridging, our work with the work of country teams, really anchoring this work in countries so that we reach to all those communities that are already working on citizen data and need the support and need to link, their work and benefit from the guidance, the Copenhagen framework and the guidance that we have developed. We will also focus very much on the priority thematic areas. We worked on gender, and you heard from Jessa, how the working group on gender has really advanced specific policy, focusing on specific policy areas, and has advanced the work. We'll continue to take this thematic approach and focus. We've had a very strong focus on disability, especially when we work on intersectionality, but we'll also focus on LGBTQI+ communities and other groups that really have expressed the need and the desire to engage with the collaborative and work for their very specific needs, data needs. And we'll address also the challenges related to capacity constraints. And we know, we live in a new landscape for financing and funding projects has become increasingly hard. So it's important that we collaborate, we create synergies, and we really build that bridge between the work that's been done so far and reaching those communities and building on projects that already exist, initiatives that already exist. But then there are other areas that are also important. We want to explore and understand better understand how the rapidly growing use of AI will impact this work, whether there are tools that can benefit the citizen data work from the AI, but also how citizen data can help make AI systems more inclusive as we increase the visibility of these marginalized groups in data. So a lot of work ahead of us. I won't go into the details of everything that has been already covered. Just in closing, let me thank again all the presenters, all participants. We want to continue this dialogue. Those of you who are going to be in New York for the UN Statistical Commission in person, please join us at the side event on March 2nd at 6:15 p.m. at the Ford Foundation, which is just 1 block away from the UN. So please join us. And you'll hear more about the work done, and you have an opportunity to meet some of the members of the steering committee and the collaborative. And if you haven't yet, please join the collaborative. There are plenty of opportunities to join working groups, to provide inputs on the guidance material that we have produced, and to give us and share ideas and share case studies of the work you've done. So thanks so much again, all of you, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.